Hello and welcome. You're watching this WION VOA Co-Production with me, Neha Khanna. We will bring you all the big stories from the United States. First up on the show, let's get started. Our top story, U.S. lawmakers reached a tentative deal this week to fund the government through next September, avoiding the prospect of a shutdown when Republicans take control of the U.S. House in January. VOA Congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has the latest from Washington.
Funding was set to expire on December 16th, but legislators passed a one-week continuing resolution while they work out a so-called omnibus spending deal. Some key points of contention still remain, including child tax credits, legislation protecting the electoral process, and the size and scope of the American military's budget. Another key point of contention, the White House's $37 billion request for continued military and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. Some House Republicans have expressed concerns about a, quote, blank check to Ukraine after the U.S. has already spent billions of dollars in aid and while Americans face domestic economic concerns. But Democrats and most Republicans support continued assistance. Lawmakers spoke after a classified briefing this week. Here's what they said.
They're asking for a myriad of different things to help equip the Ukrainian people. Well, I think what's been most effective up to this point is being able to disarm, attack, and prevent any type of missile attacks from Russia into the Ukrainian homeland, and so they're attacking the energy grid. And most effective right now is being able to attack the missiles that are coming in, cruise missiles and other missiles that the Russians are using to attack civilian, especially the energy grid.
There are members of Congress who have been agitating on social media that there should be no more blank checks for Ukraine, that they need more accountability, that the administration hasn't answered any questions about what we're doing and where this money is going. Those members were not even in the briefing today. They've consistently not availed themselves of the opportunity to actually ask the administration the questions that they say are not being answered.
Lawmakers are running out of time to work out that omnibus spending deal with just a little over a week until the Christmas holiday. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
And VOA correspondent Jessica Stone now joins us live from the White House with more analysis. Jessica, welcome back. Now, I understand the 6th January committee meets for the last time on Monday. We know they're planning criminal referrals in connection with the assault on the Capitol last year. What can we expect to learn next week?
Well, it's hard to keep secrets in Washington, so it's very difficult to understand why we don't have any of those names having been leaked to the media just yet, Neha. But the panel does meet at 1 p.m. on Monday afternoon, and they are going to, in that panel, they are going to vote on who to criminally refer to the Department of Justice. And it's a public hearing, so the public will have an opportunity to not only hear the names of the people that they believe they have enough evidence against to refer for prosecution to the Department of Justice, but also why. We might even get a sense of what some of that evidence is. And it's likely to have a lot to do with what we've already heard in front of the committee. You know, there has been a lot of evidence that has come out over the last 6 to 8 months of the committee's life cycle. The committee chair, Benny Thompson, says the committee will reveal the names of the people and why they're on the list. But several members of the committee have also told CNN that former President Donald Trump should be charged for inciting violence. Now, several of Trump's key aides are also likely to be on that list, according to reporting by CNN, including former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who, of course, was a close legal confidant of the former presidents. These recommendations, though, are non-binding, and there is a separate investigation going on at the Department of Justice. That investigation has already been gathering evidence and could benefit, say, legal experts from getting additional evidence from this committee. Neha?
Well, I guess the one question on everyone's mind really at this point, Jessica, is whether Trump and his close aides are going to figure on that list. But another key deadline for Washington comes on the 21st of December when a policy expires which was holding back entry for thousands of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border. What is the administration doing on that front?
Well, this was a policy called Title 42 that was established under the Trump administration, continued under the Biden administration, to have pandemic-era policies that would allow the U.S. government not to allow as many immigrants in across the southern border, especially those claiming asylum. Now, the Biden administration says it does plan to limit asylum claims with a new policy, but we haven't had that policy rolled out yet. And keep in mind that deadline, as you said, is just a few days away. There have been 19 Republican-led states, meantime, who have filed additional court action at the federal level asking the U.S. government to continue this policy. The question really is going to be, will the court step in before December 21st to continue Title 42? And political pressure is really building on the White House, on the Department of Homeland Security, because border officials say that 2,000 crossings a day occurred over this past weekend just at one point of entry at El Paso, Texas. That's just one point of entry out of dozens across the southern United States. And in October alone, Department of Homeland Security officials say that 50,000 people, mostly from Nicaragua, crossed the border into Texas. So this is a long-standing problem in American politics. It is not likely to be resolved over the next few days, but we are currently waiting to see what the Biden administration will do, what kind of policies it could possibly roll out in just the next couple of days, or whether the courts, as I said, will intervene. Neha?
Thanks for all those details, Jessica, but stay on with us. We will come back to you in just a moment for more details of the next story that's coming up on WION VOA Co-Production. Now, the United States has committed more than $19 billion in military aid to Ukraine since Russia's invasion on the 24th of February this year. That's an average of about $2 billion a month for weapons, ammunition, training, and other Ukrainian defense needs. VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb takes a look at what weapons have been most effective on the battlefield, which weapon experts say are still needed, and what is yet to come.
The battle for Ukraine is now a lethal artillery duel, with both sides burning through tens of thousands of rounds each week.
It's been the artillery systems that have really won the day on many occasions for the Ukrainian defenders.
Analysts and former officials say the most effective systems the U.S. has provided to Ukraine are the UK-built M777 howitzers and high-mobility artillery rocket systems, more commonly known as HIMARS.
There are hundreds of Ukrainian baby boys that are named HIMARS now because it's had such an impact there. And it is that long-range precision that is making such a difference.
Defense officials tell VOA the U.S. has delivered 20 HIMARS to date. The U.S. has provided Gimler's rockets for these HIMARS systems, which have a range of about 90 kilometers.
That's good, but that's not enough. The ATACMS rocket, also fired by HIMARS, would give a range of 300 kilometers. If the Ukrainians had that now, they could already be hitting Sevastopol and other critical sites inside Crimea.
As Russia improved its counter-drone capabilities on the battlefield, Ukraine used American-made Switchblade drones, Phoenix Ghost drones, and Turkish-made Bayraktar drones, or UAVs, for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
Ukrainians have basically taken their UAV to ground force pairing to an art form. They're a lot more flexible. A lot of their units actually feature tactical and long-range UAVs for artillery strikes, for providing situational awareness to the Ukrainian forces. And in many cases, they're simply better aware of where Russians are and can react much faster.
But Russia has an influx of drones as well from its ally, Iran. According to the Pentagon, Russia has deployed hundreds of Iranian-made attack drones to target critical infrastructure in Ukraine. To knock them out of the sky, Ukrainian forces use air defense systems like American-made Stingers, heat-seeking missiles with a range of about 5 kilometers, small enough to carry on foot. Analysts say Ukrainian forces have managed to shoot down between 60 to 85% of Russia's Iranian-made drones. Last month, the Pentagon delivered 2 NASAMS to Ukraine, National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems. which can target drones, aircraft, and cruise missiles.
From what I hear, it's in the 30s for 30, kind of 35 attempted intercepts, 35 intercepts. It's doing very well. It's defending major cities.
But Ukraine still struggles to defend itself from Russia's Iskander ballistic missiles, striking deep inside Ukrainian territory. The Pentagon's solution, officials tell VOA, will be to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine to counter these weapons. But retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery warns the U.S. would likely need at least 6 months to a year to train Ukrainians to use the complex and costly system.
Each round of Patriot is between $3 and $4 million apiece. That is a very expensive system. It would use up a lot of the money being set aside for them.
Overall, analysts agree that U.S. and NATO weapons provided to Kyiv have critically helped Ukraine defend its homeland, with the former commander of U.S. Army Europe making this bold prediction to VOA.
If we keep doing what we're doing right now, then I think Ukraine is on track to liberate Crimea by the end of August.
The Crimean Peninsula, illegally annexed by Russia since 2014, serves as a hub for Russian fighters in Ukraine. Freeing it would be a huge blow to Moscow. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
VOA's Jessica Stone is still with us. Jessica, let's talk some more about these Patriot missiles. What kind of a difference are they likely to make in Ukraine's efforts to fight off Russian aggression?
Well, it's a good question, of course, because there's been steady pressure from Volodymyr Zelensky on the Americans to offer a Patriot missile battery to the Ukrainians. The Patriot is a surface-to-air missile. It can shoot down airliners. It can also, importantly, shoot down both short and long-range missiles, and it's deployed all over the world. There are units in the Middle East, in East Asia, and in Europe. But each missile costs about $4 million. So defense planners caution, don't use it unless it's a really good target and a really expensive target. A Patriot also takes about 90 people to operate. So as Carla Babb reported, it's going to take some training for the Ukrainians to use it. A defense official also answering your question specifically saying, look, this is not the type of military hardware that is going to protect a whole city, but it can protect Kyiv from many attacks. It just would make a difference in the event that Russian President Putin would, in fact, launch a nuclear attack or even a tactical nuclear attack. So it could essentially intercept that weapon, and for that reason, the Ukrainians are very much looking forward to having this piece of equipment.
All right, and Jessica, it is clear that these advanced air missiles are key to a victory for Ukraine. Can American production keep up?
That's a question that a lot of folks in the military-industrial complex here in the United States are asking. A Pentagon official telling reporters earlier this year that, look, this is definitely putting a strain on the supply chain, on the stockpiles that are in the United States and among the European allies. And the industry publication Defense One recently asked this question of defense contract leaders. So they talked to Raytheon and Harris Communications, the industry publication, talking to Raytheon Technology CEO Gregory Hayes, who said that the supply chain for rocket motors is still slow, but that semiconductor chips are already coming back online. What he says is a real problem is inflation, the cost, especially for small suppliers, for inputs, for different kinds of parts that go into these. Defense contractors, as you may realize, get a fixed amount of money for these. So the fact that the price is still going up to produce them is really a problem. So there's a conversation going on between the contractors and the Pentagon right now, where the Pentagon is asking contractors to begin hiring ahead of actually receiving the award of the contract so that they can already be ready to produce it. And the contractors are saying, look, can you give us multi-year contracts so that we have the assurance so we can sort of establish a pipeline and not have interruptions in the supply chain. So that's a conversation that will have to continue, and there's a lot of variables, of course, but it does look like if they can establish a push-pull between the military-industrial complex and the Pentagon, that these things can be produced for the Ukrainians and for the other NATO allies that may need them.
All right, Jessica Stone, on that note, thanks very much for bringing us all those details from Washington, D.C. We look forward to having you back on WION next week.